welcome to the Parenting for Faith podcast. My name is Jess.
And my name is Anna. And we are here to help you to help the children and teenagers in your life meet and know God. We do that through all sorts of courses and resources that use the 5 key tools of parenting for faith. These really practical things that you learn once and then you have them for a lifetime in your back pocket for whatever comes up. So when your kid wakes up with a nightmare at 3 a.m. or comes home really excited about an opportunity or with friendship drama or whatever it might be, you've got these key tools so that you can help connect them to God in normal everyday life. So you can get those on our website, parentingforfaith.org, or you can go to BRF Online, where you can access all our videos on demand, either in a browser or on the app. We have got something specifically for church leaders or parents with any kind of leadership role coming up, haven't we?
Yes, on Wednesday, the 29th of April, online, we are hosting Parenting as a Church Leader course, which is just an amazing resource, so helpful. I know I'm biased, but I liked it before I worked here. It's just a great resource where you as a church leader and you as a parent or carer being able to think about how to make sure that your family flourishes, as well as having a ministry that you feel called to as well. So that's online. It's within a school day, so you can go do drop off and pick up and it will all be fine. So head to our website and book on.
Fantastic. Now, for a new podcast record today, we have 3 guests. These are the 3 authors of Belonging Without Barriers, who are going to talk all about additional needs. So whether you are a family with additional needs or you have friends or family people in your church with additional needs, do keep listening because they've got some great wisdom to share. I'm so pleased today to be joined by Triona, Lois and Claire, and we're going to get to know them a little bit today and hear about their brand new book and how it can help you and people you know and people in your church as well. So thank you so much for being with us today. Let's start by getting to know you a little bit. Can you introduce yourselves and share how on earth you ended up writing a book together?
I'm Lois, and I live in Staines in Surrey, and I've worked for over a decade now in the disability arts sector. So that's my day job. And when I'm not doing my day job, I'm a mum to 2 little girls, and I'm a wife. My husband James is a vicar at Christ Church in Staines, and I'm kind of actively involved in lots of ministries there. Yeah, and about 2018, we, as a group of us, were approached to start a sort of send stream at Revive, which is the Bible festival for the church network that we're involved in. And kind of through that, we started doing some different seminars for local churches, and there were lots of questions, and people said, have you got a good book you could recommend? We read widely, but we couldn't find one that we thought was exactly right. And that's how the book was born.
Hello, I'm Triona. So for me, I'd say that disability has always been part of my life. My dad has a physical disability, so I can't remember a time where we weren't thinking about how things need to be accessible and accommodations. And then when I was at university, I was diagnosed as autistic myself, which made sense of a lot of different things. And I had a friend growing up who had a learning disability, other family members that had learning disabilities. And so it's all just really normal to me. I couldn't quite comprehend a world without thinking through accessibility. And when I graduated, I actually joined Lois in the disability arts sector and worked there for a few years with adults with learning disabilities, and then moved into a school provision because I wanted to have a broader understanding of the whole journey that someone with an additional need or disability was experiencing. And the provision that I moved to was for social, emotional and mental health, or SEMH needs, which was an area that I kind of hadn't worked in before, but wanted to expand my knowledge in. And as I was doing this in my work, I was thinking more and more, how do we apply this to church and Christian settings? Because there's some really great resources out there for teachers and sort of people in the world, but are we making our our church environments as accessible.
Yeah, fantastic. And how about you, Claire?
So I'm a secondary school teacher. I've had some exposure to particularly neurodiversity and some other kinds of additional needs in my teaching context, but I didn't think it was really a kind of a personal interest until I had children. And then as a parent, my natural kind of personality type is to be a researcher. So I obviously started out when I had children reading lots of books, trying to understand everything about how one could and should parent. And I started finding that a lot of the traditional parenting books weren't really meeting the needs of my children, that they just didn't seem to be developing typically in the same way as other children. And particularly Christian books I found didn't seem to quite mesh with the way that I was finding my own children's experience of life and development. So it became a kind of a particular interest to me to start understanding neurodivergence and how that impacts the whole of life, really. I also volunteered with Lois and Triona in the SEND work in our Bible festival that our church network is part of. And so the three of us were kind of really working on this area for quite a long time together, practically. Lois is going to talk now about how we kind of got started on the book itself. Yeah, I think it was really important to us that what we wanted to see was a really kind of robust theological framework for the kind of practical outworkings of accessibility and why accessibility is just really important. We also wanted to include real life experiences, and we wanted to tell people stories. So that was really important to us. And we got involved with Through the Roof, and I think Triona can tell us a little bit more about them.
Yeah, so I'd been volunteering with Through the Roof initially as a roof breaker, and then as a volunteer creating resources around autism for the Roof Breaker Network. And we built up a good relationship. And then I approached them and said, oh, myself and a couple of friends are writing a book, but we really want to profile other people's experiences. Like, we'd love to partner with you and the Through the Roof network on this. And amazingly, they were keen to get involved, and they've been brilliant partners in this.
So good. I love it when God does that, when he brings together people with experience and, understanding like the three of you, but then you also combine that theological insight and examples as well. And it sounds like Through the Roof have been really key in creating that. So that's fantastic. Now, the book's quite broad. I know you talk about barriers that aren't just physical, but cultural and relational as well. Tell us honestly, what are some of the little signals that churches often give without meaning to, but that can make families with additional needs feel like they're a problem to manage rather than people who truly belong? Or maybe on the flip side, can you give us some examples of things that churches and parents and carers do that make a difference and help those families feel they belong and feel included?
So I think it's worth saying that a family turning up at a church who's got children or family members with additional needs is likely to be starting with the assumption that they don't belong because they've often experienced so many kind of barriers elsewhere. And so I think we need to go really out of our way to show people that we welcome them, that they are welcome in our church. I'm struck by Romans 15 verse 7 that says, therefore welcome one another as Christ has welcomed you for the glory of God. We have an amazing model of welcome in Jesus, of generosity, of self-sacrifice, of kind of going above and beyond. We see in Jesus that openness towards the excluded groups, those who are undervalued by society around him. And so I think that's the model that we're called to welcome everybody, whether they've got additional needs, everybody in our churches. For myself as a parent to children with neurodivergence. I know when I'm visiting a church where I'm not known, I do feel like I'm on high alert. Will my kids sit still? Will they talk loudly when there's going to be a moment of silence? Will everybody think that I can't control my children? It's often about us as a parent, isn't it, as well, when we're going through these thoughts. And so I think that churches can do a lot to communicate welcome to families like mine. So seating that allows space to move. It doesn't have to be all of the seating, but if there's some of the seating where there's obviously space to move, little things like a basket of fidgets and ear defenders by the door give an immediate kind of signal that we're welcoming as a church to people who might not have typical needs. If you're in a new church, so families arrive for the first time, if anybody in the church is able to kind of come over to them and ask what age their children are and explain the arrangements for Sunday school provision or other kinds of provision for children. Children with additional needs will often need that extra kind of advance warning of what to expect. And after a service, I think, if, for myself, my children have sometimes had disasters of services, particularly when visiting other churches, and kind of a friendly word from somebody who just sees your experience and is able to kind of communicate that they love and care about you makes a huge difference. I guess I focus quite heavily on neurodivergence, but I think Triona will be able to share more of other kinds of needs as well.
So if there's children with additional needs coming along to your Sunday school groups, and particularly if you're involved in leading it, it can be really good to get to know a bit about them, maybe chat to the parents, chat to the child, find out their interests, their likes, their dislikes, anything that would be particularly challenging for them. What helps them to calm down if they're feeling dysregulated, any of their communication needs, whether that's, they communicate in a different style that from typical children, could be using Makaton, it could be using a device, and just get that big picture, get that idea of how you can care really well for that child as an individual.
I think one of the things we really wanted to get across in the book is that loving and welcoming those with additional needs is an every church member ministry. It's something that we can and should all be a part of, because it's loving that whole body of Christ, and because that mirrors the welcome and the inclusion that we as Christians have been given first in Jesus. And I think it's often easy to think about those big things that you wish your church could do. Maybe install a sensory room or a fully accessible changing spaces toilet, or, a full-time employee specifically for SEND ministry. But actually, God has given us what we need to do in ministry right now. And I think that was what was really on our mind as we wrote the kind of theological section of Belonging Without Barriers. We were just struck by how often God deliberately uses weak people for his glory. He didn't want Gideon to rely on a huge army, but on his power. And that's the same for us as we approach ministry with those with additional needs.
So good. It's such a good reminder, because I think actually sometimes when people don't make changes or don't ask good questions, it's because they're scared they don't have the skills or they don't have the knowledge or the strength to do what's needed. And so that, one, it's God working through you, but two, what are the small things that can make a difference here and now is really helpful to hear. And I wanted to pick up on something Claire said about, feeling like you don't fit the textbook, or the idea of a heavy inverted commas here, like a good Christian family. If you don't look like some of the other families in church, or your children aren't doing or saying the sort of things that you're seeing online or seeing in books, what would you love to say to those families? And what could churches and parents and carers say that would help those families feel valued and seen and loved in the way that we all want, and the way that you've described a bit?
We would just want to keep reminding them that their children are dearly loved. They are known by God. And I think maybe just to question where this idea of a, good Christian family is coming from, because often I think it's more rooted in the kind of cultural assumptions than actually in godly character. And I suppose a bit like the kind of unwinding parenting for faith tool that you guys use, can we unwind those wrong assumptions behind that image? Jesus often asked the questions to help people think about what they value most. Is this God's approval or is this humans' approval? And we can ask, what does God really say about this? What does he say he wants from us and from our children? And what is it that we're most afraid of?
Yeah, I think one real challenge can be looking beyond external behaviours to children's hearts. We're so focused on the outward behaviour that we forget to look deeper at what's actually motivating that. In some instances, we might see a child with delayed development, and so their ways of expressing faith might not look the same as their peers. So as churches, as part of that family's church family, we can be proactive in spotting where those children are growing to look more like Jesus. If we can say to the parents, "Oh, I saw your child's picking up the toys. I was so encouraged by that." We can also encourage them when that child is helping us to love Jesus more. Maybe their enthusiastic dancing during a song, maybe their love of sharing their special interests with the adults in the church with no awareness of social barriers. Those things can make us praise God, and sometimes we just keep that inside, don't really communicate it. I think just being willing to share that with the parent of those children can make a huge difference to communicating that they are loved and welcomed by their church.
Yeah, and sometimes children and families will need more practical support. They might need some respite care, another adult to come with them to an appointment, or a group of people praying for the next scan or medical results. Someone that can take their other children out for kind of a normal coffee date, or babysitters who are willing to get some additional training. Like, for example, you might need epilepsy training to be able to babysit for someone who has epilepsy. But I think, you have to ask that family what would help, and also being ready to offer ideas. Families where their child has disabilities or additional needs, I think, often are having to fight and explain and educate, and that can be really exhausting. So if you've got a few ideas that you can offer, that's actually, I think, really, really nice way of loving the family.
Yeah, and it's being specific, isn't it? We've talked on the podcast before about when people are going through a challenging time, grieving or a new baby or something like that, often in churches we say things like, let us know if there's anything we can do. And although the heart behind that is lovely, it's actually quite hard for someone who is managing a lot and lots of things are going on to then think of the things and work out who to ask. But if you can make specific offers, and you've given some really great examples there, Triona, then it might feel easier to say, yes, actually, epilepsy training so you could babysit, that would be a game changer for us. Thank you so much. It just might open up some more doors. That's really helpful. Thank you. We talk a bit on Parenting for Faith about surfing the waves. It's one of our key tools, which is all about noticing where our child's interests are going and joining them in their interests. Now, we've talked a little bit already about special interests and how that kind of links to neurodivergence. But I think for some parents and carers, those waves can feel like, what are they, and how do I connect with my child in this? Maybe they're unpredictable, maybe they're constantly shifting. I just wondered if you had any insight on how parents and carers can join their child in what's important to them, and not feel like they're getting it wrong or they don't know how to do that. I'm going to speak first, if it's okay, about those kind of restrictive or special interests that some children might have, because I think when we think about children's interests in this area, that is often where our mind goes first. It can be really hard to see how to relate those interests to faith. They can seem very niche. They can seem not very interesting to us. And so when our kids are up for it, I think it can be really helpful to ask those questions to help them think about how their interest maybe relates to the gospel, how it might kind of reflect in a small way the gospel story. Games and films and books often have those kinds of hero's journey kind of motifs that allow us to pick up elements of the gospel. So little questions like, oh, who's the hero? What's the problem? How is it going to get fixed? What's the goal here? Can help to kind of direct conversations beyond, through the interest, into things of faith. I often ask whether the kind of the thing that they're interested in tells the story of the world the same way as God tells it, or in a different way. I think that can be a helpful question to ask. Neurodivergent children also often have a really strong sense of justice. So this can be a kind of an interest area that we can point back to God's love for justice and show them how that heart really is reflecting God's heart for the world. That's just a few ideas on those kinds of special interests beyond neurodivergence.
Yeah, so I think it's worth mentioning that for some children with additional needs, their interests may not be the same as their peers, and perhaps that's due to a developmental or a social delay. And I think sometimes it can be easy to look over our shoulder at the other children in the group and see their interests as more mature. And somehow we then sort of see that as being more kind of God glorifying. But actually this metaphor of surfing the waves reminds us to listen to the child in front of us, and try and understand what's on their mind right now, what's important to them, rather than trying to create the wave that we wish existed. Yeah.
And then, sorry, just to add, for some children who maybe have kind of profound and multiple learning disabilities or really high needs and mostly engage in the world sort of through a sensory way, it could be that you're thinking, what is their interest? Is it lights? Is it touch? Is it taste? And doing something that incorporates that. So thinking through, for example, if they love water play, or what are the stories in the Bible that are set in water? If it's touch, can I have some nice things and I can tell the story using that? Or can I sing because they love music? And so actually everyone is able to engage, and you are able to meet everyone regardless of how complex their needs may be.
And the thing that really encourages me about that is God made all of us. He knows us better than, he knows our children even better than we do. So he knows how to engage with them, even if there's not visible outward signs that feel good to us. It doesn't mean they're not connecting with God. And it struck me too with the special interest that actually, we might have had enough of hearing about that specific train 1,000 times, but God doesn't. He made that too, and he shares those interests with them, and they're a reflection of him and his character. So I think there is something really beautiful there about letting them be themselves and share those things. And I loved what you said, Lois, there about not trying to create a wave. I was cringing because that is definitely something I've done, of here, I've got this really good idea of this thing that will help you engage. And it's not it. It's about slowing down and listening and seeing what's important to them. And yes, sometimes there's an obvious faith connection, or we can just encourage them to chat to God about it because he cares about those things too. But sometimes there isn't. Sometimes it's just about listening to them and honouring and valuing them as a person and what they're interested in, rather than kind of pushing our agenda and what we want to say, and the time and space and place for that might come a bit later, but recognizing what's important to them and being with them in the moment and connecting with them. So yeah, it's really helpful, guys, and really, really practical. Thank you. So the book is out this week. It's called Belonging Without Barriers. Can you tell us how we can get hold of it, how people can stay connected to you and what you're doing?
So you can buy Belonging Without Barriers. Here, I have a copy for those who are you can buy it from all good bookshops, including BRF online. You can follow us on Belonging Without Barriers on Instagram or Facebook, where we share little snippets of things we're involved in and little ideas as they crop up in our own different ministry areas. We are hopefully going to be involved in doing seminars and training events for different churches. So do use the Facebook link or the Instagram messaging system to get in touch with us if that's something that you think your church would benefit from.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for writing the book and for all your wisdom today. This week's question to ask your kid to spark an interesting conversation is, what makes you feel that you belong? Have a great conversation.
So thank you for listening to this episode today. If you know of anybody who would love to hear it, would benefit from it, then please do share. And remember to like, subscribe, and all those wonderful things online where you are listening to us. Next week is Easter holidays. And where are you, Anna, for Easter?
I am going to be at Spring Harvest. Whoop, whoop.
Ooh.
I'm running the 0 to 4s at Skegness. So if you are going, please come and see me and say hello. I would love to chat to you. And next week, we will have a special bonus episode of the podcast with some of the team from Spring Harvest, all about when you've been to an amazing thing like that, how do you take it home? How do you use that as a little turbo boost or a springboard? But just recognizing that you as the parents and primary carers, you are the ones who know your kids best and are doing this every day. So we want to make the most of those things, but also not leave you hanging on a bit of a low. We've all done that before. Feel free to listen in if you are at a Christian festival or anything like that, or just if you're nosy and want to know a bit of what goes on at Spring Harvest. But then we will be back with season 15 after the Easter holidays.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.